especially in the black radical tradition, whereby he was just one of those people who set out to redefine standards of moral and ethical behaviour, but at the same time, to emphasise the validity and the legitimacy of black life, which is to say that for me anyway, just like he wasn't like an Afro-pessimist. He wasn't saying like black life is just it's just this kind of dead horse that we should flog. That if we stick with it, if we stay within the conditions, that's the only way we're going to actually change. Change black life for everybody, not just for black people, but for black life and people. Which is to say that black life is synonymous with white life and American life. Which is to say that slavery is important, colonialism is important. That's being objective about it, but also using these facts to look ahead, to be progressive and futuristic.
Thanks. Do you want to engage with that, or can I bring in another really sort of question that is like burning? So basically, the conversation that we had slightly earlier, the idea that actually, how do brown people engage in sort of black struggle, because, for example, and I had a conversation with Clee Benelli. Unfortunately, we didn't have it in a session. It had to be filmed because he was unable to attend a session, and he was only here for 2 to 3 days, and he's originally from Arizona in the US, and he's of Native American, he's Native American, or you could say, yeah, let's call him Native American, let's go with that because it's the most commonly, it's a common term, and I guess everyone will know what I'm speaking about. So he's Native American, and obviously the US as it is a settler state. It's a European settler state, and it's built obviously on the mass graves of Native Americans, and Clee Benelli spoke about the Holocaust of the Native Americans, and it's not only the North. Obviously, the Holocaust happened in the South, in South America as well. And Latin is actually the term used due to colonialism. So I just go with South America because I think it's a sort of more appropriate term. Although obviously Seminawak is the term that they refer to South American continent. So Native American people. So engaging in, say, the genocide and also the Holocaust of Native American people and how they were brutalized by the European settlers, how do we engage with colonial history and basically this sort of very brutal incidences that obviously came about in history? How do brown people, and me, as I said, I'm from the Asian continent, and our colonial brutal history, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and then we have the African Holocaust in Congo and arguable other genocides and things like this that resulted due to Europeans. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that how can we engage in conversation with the black struggle, because I think often as being Pakistani, there's not much sort of anti-colonialist sort of resistance from Pakistan, from what is known as Pakistan today, basically. And I seek a lot of my inspiration from black revolutionaries, Dr. Khalid Mohammed being one of them. And I guess what I'm saying is, but then again, as you said, there's much introspection that I need to do and ensure that I never am complicit in, because I never want to be complicit in any sort of form of sort of whitewashing black resistance at the same time. So I guess what I'm saying is, how can we engage in this sort of struggle as a collective without diluting down any sort of form of black resistance? I guess it's engaging the complexities of the struggle, and
I think you're doing that. what you're doing now and the work you're doing, and the reason why I'm saying that is because you're not. So you being brown, black, however you want to self-identify, you know Asian people, right? And like you said, the whole kind of, because this is something that I've never really understood as well, and this is something that I kind of wanted to speak a little bit about, is that why is it, because I know a number of Asian, and when I do a number of events, funny enough, most of the people that attend and most of the organisers are Asian, are not black. When I go to most universities, whatever, most of the black students are interested in partying, Afro-Caribbean society. They're not interested in learning about the history and stuff like that. And I was one of them, so I'm not going to start speaking. But but a lot of and that's why even when I saw the whole issue with Zayn Malik and Sadiq Khan, I was kind of troubled by it. But then at the same time, I thought to myself, do you know what? Most events I go to, Asians support as much, if not more, than black people, if I'm honest, and not doing it because they just like you said. So in terms of trying to identify with figures that are resisting like white supremacy and European imperialization, stuff like that, they can relate to a lot of black figures because they're the ones that are speaking out against it. And I was thinking to myself, I can't think of many Asians that speak out against it. So I don't know, like, in terms of what you would do. To be totally honest, the only thing I could say is when you're dealing with issues within the Asian community, because you know the community better than anyone else, you know how to. Do you understand? You know where people's minds are. The same way, like when Ayan was mentioned earlier, and I was speaking about our parents. Could you convince them to talk about the importance of blackness and race? You couldn't, because it's for them. It's a non-concept. Do you understand? So the people that are affected by it, which are mainly people that are living in the Western society, and especially young people, because they're conditioned from a young age. That's where I would kind of, because you wouldn't want them to have an inferiority complex. I'm saying, but for older people who I'm not saying you ignore older people, but it's a non-issue to them. Or like as my dad says, you're talking about racism and stuff like that. Where I've come from, it's blacks are killing blacks. And to come from how again, I'm not saying Nigeria was in a really bad situation, but how it is now, they don't mind coming here and suffering racism. That's again not to say that racism is fine, but me born in this country, grew up in this country, I'm not going to start saying you should be talking about racism and colonialism, because it's not an issue from where they've come from. Do you understand what I'm getting at?
But is it though, because of the history? From
where they've come from, I understand, but for where they've come from, because ultimately most people, they just want to better their lives.
But didn't Malcolm speak about this? Didn't he speak about the educating about our history?
Yeah, but who's he speaking?
Not necessarily.
I agree, but who's he speaking to?
That's not necessarily to obviously saying that we do this whole preaching thing.
No, not preaching, but like I said, he was mainly speaking to African Americans.
But did he go to Africa? He did.
Of course he went to Africa, but I'm saying when he was going to Africa and he was speaking, and then he was going back to African Americans.
But that's just how he was positioned, you know.
No, but my point
didn't choose to be positioned.
No, my point is he was trying to connect. But I'm saying that if you're going to Africa and trying to teach them the importance of African history and things like that, and they kind of already read it, but it's not that important. They just want to better their life. It's
because
totally
that's
different.
Survival. They have no choice, right?
It's not even it's not survival. There's a lot of people in Africa that's living like, especially when you see I'm endorsing that Queen of Cataway film. The reason why it's so good, you saw rich Africans, you saw poor Africans. It wasn't just. Do you understand the stereotypical image of Africa being poor? So when you're looking,
I'm speaking about say.
But my point is that for Asians or like non-black people, I think the people that are like passionate about fighting white supremacy and just need to be honest in terms of their own community and in terms of need to be honest in terms of tackling their own community. Because one thing which I always ask like some of my Asian friends, my wife, what do you say behind closed doors about black people? I just want to know. I'm not going to get offended. A lot of people won't tell me because I just want to understand. Okay, how do you get this type of thinking? Why do you think like? Because it's endemic in the subconscious, or not even subconscious. It's in many people's psyches that black people, whether it's an Asian community, Arab community, the Chinese community, that black people are the lowest of the low. And
so have you traced that psychology? So you're saying it's not a byproduct of colonialism, which is a credible.
Some of it is, but I just want to know, like, even those who are educated, they still have this, like, black is at the bottom, and those who are even fighting against this, they're not like having an honest conversation with myself. And I was like, okay, I'm not saying that you are racist, but why? What do they say? But like, what type of things do they say? Do you understand? I'm getting that because there's a number of people that, when it comes to entertainment or even education.
But
They don't mind
what
listening
they
to a black
do
person
say, and I
speak.
can guarantee they say in the Asian community, what I know what they say, they might not say certain sentiments in front of me, honestly, because I don't take shit. But I will be saying this though, what I have seen is that if they don't overtly display anti-blackness, they definitely display the whole worshipping the whiteness. Do you understand? The whiteness is a construct, Eurocentric beauty ideals and everything. So you see this in the psyche of like many Asians.
I mean, the only thing I would say,
and that's that's a lot more prevalent, and they can be open about it, and they might not necessarily hold back on it. You know what I mean? So you can see that form of self-hate, and obviously the way they would treat dark. And we have very dark South Asians, and I was speaking about the Sidi tribe, which obviously they're from Africa, Southeast Africa, and I think it's Southeast Africa and East Africa, anyways. But you have this kind of ongoing, but I think we're not talking only in a sort of we're not talking about so where you're positioned geographically, but rather across the board. Also, across the board, how we can even engage in, say, a Native American.
For me, it's for me to understand, because I understand. No, I don't understand the extent in the sense of what's happened to the indigenous people of the Americas. Do you understand? So that's where I need to listen, because the same way, like for example, we talk about what's happening, like police brutality in America and what they're doing to black people, but what's happened, or what is happening, what's happened to indigenous Americans, not only in North America but South America, we don't talk about. So that's where again we need to, those coming from those backgrounds or those who are better educated, I'll need to listen, not to just talk about my own
because I
problems.
think his history is vital to
but learning from someone's perspective, because history is what's the saying, it's written.
History is
it's
from
written by the
perspective as well, and a broad voice, because that's what I try to, as I was trying to say, I want to invite people from an entire
and it's good
array.
that you're doing that, because naturally, like, and I'm not going to make no claims I'm objective, because I'm not. No one is. But I'm coming from a perspective, and you've got other people come from a perspective, which is good, and then you can, the more different perspectives that you listen to, then you can make your own opinion, make your own informed opinion, which I think is important. So you're doing that. So that's what I think you just need to continue doing what you're doing, and everyone needs to continue doing in terms of trying to eradicate, ultimately through education, but different ways. Some people could be social media, some people's different, it's conversations, but you know your people, community better than anyone else. It's not for me to say this is where you have to tackle it. Do you understand what I'm getting at?
And just on a really quick point, in relation to the point you made about Africa being rich, absolutely, and everyone knows that who studied history that Africa was very rich.
Was and still is.
Still is. Yeah, and still is. Was and still is, just to be clear. But I wanted to make a point, but it was and still is, however, colonialism did economically cripple
to some respect, yes, but we need to stop making excuses, because if you go to...
No, I'm not speaking about excuses, I'm talking about from a structural
I agree, but...
Just a structural...
Me as, like, a Nigerian, I'm troubled that I can go to Nigeria and you have the nicest house, fattest house you can imagine, mansion, everything, and right next to it you've got
But
people.
Isn't this why I was trying to just, if you let me allow me to finish, my actual point was why I used the term survival, because I'm always speaking to the working class people. So I noticed that you haven't actually made a critique of class struggle.
No, but I think it comes down to what sorry, I forgot his name. James said about not even just about blackness, it's about human beings. And what I mean by that is that some people, I'm not saying people in Africa are more greedy.
But what about class struggle, i.e. working class? When I'm speaking, I'm always speaking to the working class people in Asia, the working class people
But you know, some of those working class people, even in Nigeria, if they became the middle class or, you know, the elites, they will behave exactly the way elites are behaving.
What do you mean by that?
So it's a set mentality.
It's mentality.
It's a set mentality.
That's the thing. It's the mentality. So, like, obviously, naturally, when you